students, welcome back to English Classes Online. I am Benjamin. Today's video is on antonyms and collocations in Wassce English. We shall be illustrating with 2021 Wassce preparatory past questions. We shall take past WAEC English questions to illustrate certain grammatical principles that will help you in scoring high in your WAEC, NECO, and NAPTEP English exams. If you are new to this channel, kindly subscribe to the channel by clicking on the subscribe button below. You can click on the bell icon as well so that whenever new videos are uploaded on this channel, you will receive instant notifications. Without much ado, let's dive into the lesson. Wassce of June 2009, English Language 2 Objective Test Questions. Let's start with section 1. In each of the following sentences, there is one underlined word and one gap. From the words lettered A to D, choose the one that is most nearly opposite in meaning to the underlined word and that will at the same time correctly fill the gap in the sentence. So here we are looking at antonyms. Antonyms are words nearly opposite in meaning, but there is also a clause here. There is a phrase that specifies the need to look at the contextual meaning of the word. So we are not just concerned with antonyms, but contextual antonyms. Antonyms in the manner in which the word has been used in the context. Because it said that this word, which is the antonym of the given word, will at the same time correctly fill the gap in the sentence. So we take note of this. Let's begin with question number 1. It was a very harmonious meeting without one dash note. First, you understand the meaning of the underlined word. This is where having a large active vocabulary becomes a necessity, because your vocabulary is the totality of the words you know in a language, and we have active vocabulary and passive vocabulary. You need a large active vocabulary to be able to understand the underlying grammatical principles that will inform your choice of the correct option in questions like this. Let's discuss these principles. First, understand the meaning of the underlined word. The word harmonious is derived from the word harmony, and harmony means agreement. You know, it was a very harmonious meeting, which means the people participating in that meeting were in agreement with one another. Then we have to look for the word that is opposite to harmonious, and the options are as follows: A, divergent; B, adverse; C, discordant; and D, strident. Now, the right option is discordant, because discordant means in disagreement or characterized by conflicts, you know. Other words also, people can hold divergent views, but again, there is a principle we have to look at, and that is the principle of collocation. The words that go together, you know. So in this case, we have to look for a word that collocates with, you know, meetings, and a word that is appropriate for that context, and that is discordant, you know. So in this case, if we actually insert the word discordant here, what will we have will read as follows. It was a very harmonious meeting without one discordant note. Again, you discover that the word discordant, you know, collocates with notes. You may sometimes hear discordant notes. All right. Question number 2. The man was accused of premeditated murder, but he pleaded that it was dash. So we look at the word premeditated, and we need to understand that premeditated means pre-planned, something you planned beforehand, something you intended to do before you actually did it. Now, what should be the opposite of such a thing? Then again, you have to look at the word murder, you know, the context within which this word has been used. So let's look at the options. A, determine. B, accidental. C, plan. D, contrive. Now, within the context, we discover that B is appropriate. The man was accused of premeditated murder, but he pleaded that it was accidental. That is logically correct, because accidental is something that happens without prior intention. You know, it happened accidentally. And of course, there have been situations where someone killed another person accidentally. You know, like people in the security agencies. Sometimes you discover that a soldier or a police officer might not have had intention to kill someone, but you know, what is called accidental discharge may have occurred, and then the bullet kills someone. And sometimes it could be the case of what is called a stray bullet. These are all cases of accidental killing of someone. Then question number 3. We nearly lost the trend of his argument because of its complexity. But the dash of his language was our saving grace. Now, complexity has to do with being difficult to understand. Complicated, something that is somehow hard to understand. All right? But then let's look at, the dash of his language was our saving grace. So what should be the opposite of complexity in this context? We have the options: A, simplicity; B, correctness; C, oneness; D, naivety. Now, option A is most appropriate, simplicity, because it collocates with language. Language can be described as simple. When language is simple, easy, accessible, it means that it's not complex, it's not difficult to understand. So that actually is the appropriate replacement, the appropriate antonym to fit in this gap. Question number 4. Uche achieved, Uche achieved, let's move this, if we can move this a little bit up, all right, without actually, let's just move it a little bit up. Okay, let's leave it, and then we'll come back to it. Uche achieved ultimate success after overcoming many dash difficulties. Now, the word ultimate is something that happens at last, ultimate success. That's success at last, final, eventual, that's the meaning of ultimate. And then Uche achieved ultimate success after overcoming many dash difficulties. Option A, grave. B, challenge. C, first. D, initial. D is the most appropriate after overcoming many initial difficulties. So ultimate is final success after overcoming initial difficulties. So initial can be the antonym of ultimate within this context, and it can also collocate with difficulties, initial difficulties. All right? Okay, so let's bring this down a bit. Then let's go to the next page. All right? Question number 5. I should know what to do in normal circumstances, but this is a very dash situation. So the word normal is known. It doesn't need to be overflowed. Normal situation, normal circumstances. Now let's look at the option. A, different. B, unlikely. C, unusual. D, improbable. The appropriate answer is unusual. When something is unusual, it is strange or abnormal, which of course is the opposite of normal. And we can also talk of unusual situation, unusual situation. And don't forget, we are talking of circumstances and situation, So other options would not fit in quite well in that context. Question number 6. Bola is quite extravagant, whereas his wife is dash. Extravagant means wasteful. Someone who spends money wastefully or in a way that is really not economical can be described as extravagant. So Bola is quite extravagant. He overspends, whereas his wife is dash. So let's look at the options. A, considerate. B, ordinary. C, wasteful. D, thrifty. See, wasteful would have been the answer if we were looking for synonyms or words nearest in meaning. But we are looking for words opposite in meaning. So we are looking for the opposite of wasteful, which is thrifty. When you are thrifty, you want to save more than you spend, and that is thrifty. Now, let's move on. Question number 7. This is quite surprising. You cannot differentiate between the authentic and the dash receipt. Now, authentic here means something that is genuine, all right? And if something is authentic, it is genuine. And then don't forget, we are using this word to describe receipt. And so we have to look for a word that collocates with receipt in such a context. If it is not authentic, what is it? Option A, false. B, fake. C, wrong. D, illegal. B is the appropriate answer because if a receipt is not authentic, if it's not genuine, obviously it's a fake receipt. When you issue a receipt that is not genuine, it is fake. No, not, that's B, okay? You can take note of B, that's the answer. Now, question 8. Many people objected to the demolition of the toll gates whose dash cost millions of dollars. To demolish is to destroy. So demolition is destruction, destruction. When you build a house, you construct it or you erect it or you build it. When you destroy it, you demolish it. All right? And so let's look for the opposites, which should also put in here. The whose dash costs millions of dollars. A, construction. B, formation. C, maintenance. D, design. The appropriate answer is construction. You can talk of the cost of the construction of a house, which collocates with cost and also collocates with toll gates, which you construct toll gates. All right? Question number 9. To some people, that custom is repugnant, but to others, it is dash. When something is repugnant, it means that it is abhorring, it is repulsive, it is unpleasant, right? Depending on the context. But the truth is that it's really not desirable, it's not acceptable. All right, so, but here we are looking at a word that describes custom. Don't forget collocation, because collocation means words that go together. The fact of words going together. And if you have to look for a word that modifies custom, if it is not repugnant, then you have to find another word, the opposite of repugnant, which also defines or describes custom. That's what we mean by contextual antonyms. All right, so let's look at the options. Option A, captivating. B, delightful. C, popular. D, acceptable. Now, let's look at these options. And of course, option D should be the most appropriate, acceptable, Question 10. While the armed robber remained unruffled after he had been arrested, his wife became dash. When someone is unruffled, it means that the person is calm, unperturbed, all right, unworried, that is not disturbed, all right. What should be the opposite? Let's look at the options. A, defiant. B, rude. C, agitated. D, energetic. The answer is C, agitated. When you are agitated, you are worried. You are filled with anxiety. You are filled with worry. So while the armed robber remained unruffled after he had been arrested, his wife became agitated. That is quite correct. So let's move on to section 2. So here we are in section 2. From the words lettered A to D, choose the word that best completes each of the following sentences. And here we are essentially dealing with collocation here. We are dealing with collocation, and like I told you, collocation has to do with words that fit into a particular context, a word you can use in company with other words or in association with other words. As human beings associate with one another, so some English words tend to associate with one another as well. So we have to be looking at the contextual meaning of these words to find the word that really collocates with the linguistic items within the gap. All right, so let's begin to look at this. Question number 11. Many people were seriously injured in the dash accident. Fortunately, nobody died. Now, we can look at the options. Option A, ghastly, B, fatal, C, reckless, D, dangerous. Now, when we are talking of collocation, we are looking at words that can be used together with another word. Among these options, ghastly and fatal can be used with accident. You often hear people talk about a ghastly accident or a fatal accident. But this is where semantics comes in. Semantics is the science or the study of meaning. And of course, grammar is not complete without semantics, because for a word, for a sentence to be grammatically correct, it has to be meaningful also. So what is the meaning here? Many people were seriously injured in the dash accident. The explanation now shows us the meaning. Fortunately, nobody died. If somebody died, it will be described as a fatal accident. But since nobody died and it was a serious accident, then we can say it was a ghastly accident, yet not a fatal one. All right, so let's look at it in this way. So we go now to question number 12. The editor decided not to publish the dash article since the writer did not indicate his name. So we look at the context, a word that will describe an article and fits into the meaning, the explanation given here. Option A, unmarked, B, unlabeled, C, anonymous, D, stamped. Now, if the writer did not indicate his name, then the article can be described as an unnamed article. And the word that we fit in here is option C, which is anonymous. You know, in some radio programs, people call in, and when they don't want to mention their name for one reason or the other, they request to remain anonymous. So they become anonymous callers. And somebody who has written an article and refused to indicate his or her name has decided, probably deliberately, to remain an anonymous writer. So that is the option, anonymous. So question number 13, then they did not fulfill the requirement for admission and so was dashed from taking the entrance examination. All right, there's a repetition of the article D here. All right, so let's correct that. Okay, so now was dashed from taking the entrance examination. Option A, removed, B, disqualified, C, convicted, D, implicated. The appropriate one is disqualified. You know, when you do not fulfill the requirement for admission, it means you didn't meet the qualification, and so you are disqualified. Then they did not fulfill the requirement for admission and so was disqualified from taking the entrance examination. And when dealing with questions like this, then you also have to apply the principle or the method of elimination. Now, you can only talk of someone's name being removed from a list, but it doesn't fit into this. Then somebody is only convicted in a court of law, in a law court, but not in terms of examination. Being implicated has nothing to do with simply not fulfilling the requirement for admission. So the right option is disqualified. Question number 14. The murder suspect denied the grave allegations against him, but the evidence so far has dash him, but the evidence so far has dash him. A, corroborated. B, impeached. C, convicted. D, implicated. Of course, the option D, implicated, is the right choice because all others do not fit in. You know, when you are implicated, it means there's something that shows evidence that you were guilty of something. That's when you are implicated. You know, corroborated is a different thing. Impeached is when you are occupying an office and then a certain group of people like the Congress decide to impeach you. A president can be impeached. All right. Convicted is when you are already found guilty in a court of law. So implicated is the right word there. Then question number 15. It was quite dash to have invested in that new business. All right. Let's try to wipe this so we can see quite clearly. It was quite dash to have invested in that new business. A, prosperous. B, sufficient. C, profitable. D, successful. Of course, profitable. You know, it was quite profitable, beneficial, useful to have invested in that new business. Now, question 16. The president granted the condemned prisoner a dash. A, reprieve rather. B, remission. C, bail. D, chance. Now, the appropriate option is reprieve. So a reprieve is, you know, a pardon. That's the appropriate word. You know, the president granted the condemned prisoner a pardon. That is a reprieve. When you talk of remission, that's more religious. That's forgiveness of sins, which is more spiritual than physical. Then bail can only happen in a police station or in a court. And chance is something that doesn't belong to this context at all. So question number 17, it was difficult for the doctor to dash the patient's ailment. A, discover. B, decide. C, divine. D, diagnose. Of course, the medical term is diagnose. You diagnose an ailment or you diagnose a disease, you know, a sickness, a medical condition. It is diagnosis when the doctor examines a patient to find out the cause of that particular ailment by looking at the symptoms. It means that you are talking of diagnosing here. Question number 18. They wished her dash of the season. They wished her dash of the season. A, compliments. B, compliment. C, compliment. D, compliments. Now, the option is A, which is compliments, the one with L-I, and the S has to be there because you often hear people say compliments of the season. It's not compliments. If you compliment someone, then you commend or praise the person, all right, politely. But then this other compliment is something else. You can talk of the compliments of the object or the compliments of the verb and so on in grammatical terms. So D is also out of it. So the answer is A, compliments of the season. That is the collocate of season. Compliments always collocates with the season. Question number 19. Chief Coco never allows his name to be published in connection with his philanthropic activities because he dash publicity. A. Lacks. B. Cherishes. C. Detests. D. Understands. Now we can look at the actual semantic interpretation of the sentence. He never allows his name to be published in connection with his philanthropic activities because he dash publicity. Of course, lacks is out of it. Cherishes, if he cherishes, then he wouldn't. Then he would readily allow his name to be published. So the right option is option C, detests. When you detest something, you dislike it or you hate it. So Chief Coco dislikes, Chief Coco never allows his name to be published in connection with his philanthropic activities because he dislikes publicity, which means he detests publicity. That is why option C is the correct answer. And finally, question 20. A befitting dash was paid to the memory of the departed renowned professor, playwright, and dramatist. A. Tribute. B. Reward. C. Contribution. And D. Praise. The right option is tribute. You pay tribute to someone. Tribute here means honor. A befitting honor was given to the memory. A befitting tribute was paid. And again, tribute collocates with pay. You pay tribute. All right? You pay tribute. All right. So this is where we draw the curtain in today's video. I hope you have learned some grammatical principles that will be helpful to you in analyzing questions on lexis and structure, and which can also equip you with the linguistic tools for a more effective performance in your everyday English communication. I want to thank you for being part of today's episode. If you have any questions or comments or suggestions, please leave your comments in the comments section. If you have enjoyed this video, like the video and share the video with your friends and relations. If you have any topic in mind that you would want me to discuss in subsequent videos, you can suggest the topic as well, because I can assure you that I will respond positively. In fact, there are many videos we have discussed and uploaded on this channel that we are in direct response to requests by our esteemed viewers. If you have not subscribed to this channel, kindly do so that you won't miss new videos when they are uploaded. Make sure you click on the bell icon as well, so that whenever new videos are uploaded, you will receive instant notification. This is where we call it a day. Bye bye for now. See you in the next